Let's preview tonight's Spurs-Celtics game. Look at the Spurs improvements, and let's talk to you, the Locked On Spurs YouTube fans, and your comments.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here in the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Hope everybody's having a great work week and staying warm if you're in San Antonio. I know it's been cold, so stay warm out there. Hey, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You want to go check out FanDuel ASAP. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get themselves $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at tonight's game, Spurs-Celtics. We're going to do a real quick preview. Then we're going to bring in our guest, Hector Ledesma. He's rejoining us after coming by last week, and we're going to be looking at the Spurs improvements, which ones have been standing out for me, for him, and then we're going to look at a couple of YouTube Locked On Spurs fan comments and address them. Let's just say a lot of DeJounte Murray, so brace yourselves. All right, tonight's game, Spurs-Celtics. Spurs are still on the road. They are 7-32 heading into tonight's game versus Boston. Boston is 31-9. Yeah, they're a juggernaut. The Spurs are down 0-1 in the regular season series to Boston this season. Now, in the back, and what happened in the last game? Well, the Spurs are coming off a road loss versus the Hawks. They made a furious comeback. We're down at 35 points. Made it interesting, but the Hawks held San Antonio to 99 points off 38-95 shooting. And Victor Wembanyama, he finished with 26 points and 12 rebounds, continuing to impress. Sohan had 23 points and 8 rebounds. Keldon Johnson had 5.6 rebounds. And Trey Jones had 6 points and 11 assists. Injury report, Dominic Barlow, he's just questionable whether he's going to be in the G League or not. And that's it. Looks like everybody else is good to go. And for those on uniform watch, the Spurs will be in their black Icon Edition jerseys tonight. So let's take a look at who the Spurs have across the other side of the court, and that is Boston. So let's start with them first. It's been Boston's been very kind to the Celtics. They're getting that home cooking. Right now, Boston's on a 19-game home winning streak. Here's a little interesting fact. That's tied the Spurs for the longest home winning streak. So Spurs have their work to cut out for them. The Boston TD Garden is definitely a very creature comforts for Boston, so keep an eye on that. Also, keep an eye on the scoreboard. Boston is 15-0 at home when leading after the first period. So if you see that scoreboard, Boston is up. Going into the second period may not be a good sign for your silver and black. Now, I know everybody looks at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and as those two, and of course, Derek White as well. Kind of a three-headed snake there that could cause trouble for the Spurs. But let's focus on other people that the Spurs may have to keep an eye on. And that is Boston's Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard. Now, off the bench this season for Boston, Hauser ranks 4th in the NBA in made three-pointers at 83, while Pritchard ranks 10th in the NBA with 67 threes, that is, in the second unit off the bench. So keep an eye on those two guys. They tend to light it up. So if you see them getting cooking from the three line, you know that Spurs defense better step up and run them off that three line. Now look at your Spurs. The Spurs have lost 3 straight games overall to Boston. Hopefully the Spurs can snap that losing streak tonight. Now, if there's any good news that may keep this Spurs team in the game versus Boston, is that right now San Antonio is averaging a season low 11.4 turnovers per game in the month of January. So that's been one of the bigger reasons why the Spurs have improved their play over the last several games. And hopefully the Spurs can keep that and keep those second chance, those easy buckets, those transition buckets away from Boston, keeping those turnovers low. There you have it, a quick Spurs-Boston preview. All right, coming up next, we have Hector Ledesma. He's joining us. He's going to be talking with us about, some of your comments on the Left on the Fan page over there at YouTube, the Locked On Spurs YouTube page, as well as what improvements have we liked from the Spurs over the last several games. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about eBay Motors. Look, passion, drive, patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keeping that vehicle, well, that level up to its peak performance. So from superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits to LED headlights and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find the exact right part, that part that you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP that you want to bring home with that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. It's morphin' time.
And look who is back right here on Locked On Spurs. Hector Ledesma making his second appearance right here on the show. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. And he's looking quite dapper there with the new haircut. They're looking fresh, Hector.
Appreciate them. I actually just got the haircut like a couple of hours, like not even a couple of hours, like an hour.
I am so glad you do this for Locked On Spurs. I know it was for Locked On. It wasn't for anything else, just looking fresh for the show, right, Hector?
It was due. Like, yeah, when you invited me to come back on, I was like, all right, this time I can't look homeless. Like I have to be able to look presentable. And so I got the haircut, even like trimmed the beard. So
look at that. Yeah, I've seen Hector when he lets the beard grow a little bit, man. Yeah. Yeah, he ain't kidding. He ain't kidding. He gets a little scruffy.
It's nasty. Yeah.
He is a a Spurs writer for Clutch Points. Again, make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. And Hector, got a good fan reaction from your first appearance, so we decided to bring you back. I'm glad you found some time. We'll take up too much of your time because I know you're a busy man, but let's go ahead and dive right into this. So, improvements. Okay, sure. The Spurs got pretty much pasted for half the game versus Atlanta, but nevertheless, you still saw improvements in the second half. So over the last 5-6 games, this team has been making strides, Hector. I wouldn't call it a turnaround, but they're making steps. What do you see as the biggest factor as far as why they're just having a better showing on the court?
So it's interesting, Jeff, because I think before the Chicago game, I would have said the two main reasons are, number one, Wemby's on a tear. Number two, what a coincidence. They're playing better since Trey Jones entered the starting lineup, right?
Yeah. And
then the Chicago game came. And you're like, okay, they're losing 18 points by 18 midway through the third. It's like, okay, they don't have Wemby. It's, then they come storming back. They take a 8-point lead in the fourth. And for all intents and purposes, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
I think a more mature team, a more talented team at this point in time wins that game. But what that game told me, and oh, by the way, Trey was lights out, right? A career high 30, the whole 9, led the team in rebounds that night too. What that night told me was, not only has the question, let me start all over again with that little comment right now. Forget the should Trey have been starting at point guard versus it doesn't really matter question. Watching that game and seeing what the Spurs have done the last week and a half, 2 weeks, the thought that entered my mind is, should Trey have been out there simply because he's just one of the Spurs' best players right now? Period. Regardless of he should be playing at point and he shouldn't, and it doesn't matter because of today's game. Regardless of all the talking points, is he just flat out one of the best players on the team right now? And the question to that answer is probably, right now. Like, Wemby already is the best player on the team, right?
By far, yeah.
I think there's no question, I think, that eventually Devin, of this group, Devin has the potential. And I know he hasn't been great the last couple of games, but he has the potential to be the second best player on this group. Keldon is Keldon. Keldon just based on heart, hustle, and he's got skills. Let's not cut Keldon short in that regard. He's just always going to give you something. And then there's Jeremy, I think, who's trying to feel his way through. I think Jeremy probably I think it's safe to say will be a better pro down the line than
Right.
Trey will. Keldon already is. But in terms of right now, yeah, Trey, I mean, and that's a fun exercise, right? Like if you're ranking, give me everyone in the Spurs roster from 1 all the way down, starting with 1 at the best player. You go Wemby, you go Devin, you probably go Keldon. Is Trey 4? Like, you know, like right
Yeah.
now, he'd be better than, you know, and maybe that's a stretch. Maybe Jeremy for what even what I mentioned, he's still 4. So then is Trey 5? Like the point being, you know, at this point in time,
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Zach Collins, you know, in different ways, right? But he's going to give you and he's going to help you more than Malachi, Zach Collins, you know, than Bassie did before he got hurt, than Jetty, than Doug. You know, is he going to give you more than all those guys? And the question is probably yes. And so the fact that he's not only been inserted as point guard, but the fact that he's getting more minutes and playing more of a prominent role, and we saw in the Chicago game, a guy who looked to score, who was, you know, given an opportunity to, you know, open up that part of his game. I think that's probably, it's no coincidence that since they inserted him into the starting lineup, starting with that Milwaukee game, they've been playing better. And even the closest game in that span that they've come to laying an egg was the Atlanta game, right? The first half was terrible. Yeah. And then you see what they did in the second half. Now, most of that, a lot of that was Wemby, right? And finding him and things along those lines. But they got within 6 and could have gotten within 4 if Keldon hits that. Point being, when you take the whole game into consideration, they still are playing the best ball that they've played of the season. And I don't think it's a coincidence. It's because Trey has been not only starting at point, but played a more prominent role these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you know, I dug into some numbers right now, and according to Cleaning the Glass, at his position, so among all other point guards in the NBA, Trey Jones is ranked 87th percentile. That's near almost the top, 100 percentile. That's right there. He's ahead of guys like Kyle Lowry, his brother Tyus Jones, Fred VanVleet in assist to usage rate. So basically, it's a fancy way of saying how many times is he being used as a focal point on the offense, and he passes and he gets out to people and creates buckets for them. I mean, he's ranked that high. So yeah, he's doing a bang-up job in his return to the starting role. I like to see the Spurs play it out for the rest of the season. That, you know, none of this coming. Okay, Trey, get back on the bench. You know, Blake, your turn now. You know, I think that he should stick there, give him a shot to continue proving that perhaps he is a big piece of this rebuilding project the Spurs are on. So no, but Trey Jones, yeah, absolutely, Hector. I mean, just big. I mean, I think he might be the biggest reason why the Spurs have made positive strides, Hector. But for me, what I've been looking at over the last 6-7 games is minimal turnovers. I don't even seeing this, but ahead of that game against Atlanta, the Spurs 6 games in a row, fewer turnovers in the opposition, just 5 versus Detroit. I think they only had 8 versus Chicago. They're averaging the lowest amount of turnovers this month so far through January, about 11.4, 11.5. To me, valuing the ball, not creating second chance opportunities for the opposition really helps them. And lo and behold, and Hector, you were there with me that conference room post game versus Chicago. I think Hector and I were running the show at one point for the Doug McDermott segment. I asked Doug, I go, hey, well, you're seeing this, right? Like, what are you seeing in this department? And who did he point the finger at? It's a big reason for the minimal turnovers. Trey Jones, Hector.
Yeah, it's related because the ball, like these two things can be true at the same time. The game no longer exists in an era where John Stockton, Avery Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, you know, Kevin Johnson, had Jason Kidd, had the ball, Steve Nash, had the ball in their hands for Magic Johnson, you know, had their hands in the ball in their hands forever. That's not the way the game is played anymore. But the game is played in a way now where a point guard sets you up, and then there's the majority of the offense, of his movement within the offense is off the ball. And then when he gets the ball and they get into their sets, facilitates and gets guys in spots and gets the ball to guys in good spots. That's what the point guard is nowadays. And with Trey taking on that responsibility, it's directly correlated to fewer turnovers because he is a point guard by trade. Point guards by trade, like their number one thing is take care of the ball.
The ball, right?
Even more important than assists and getting guys in the spots. That's maybe 1A or 2, but number one is take care of the ball. And you can say that goes for everybody, right? But you're okay when a 7-footer loses the ball. Like it's kind of like it comes with the territory. Yeah. You know, when a guy who lives, you know, in terms of getting into the lane and creating, you understand that guy is going to lose the ball too. The point guard, he needs to never, and I don't mean literally, right? But he needs to never really truly lose the ball. That's his entire existence, even in today's game. Take care of the ball. Get into your offense. Once you're into your offense, get guys, you know, and you flow off of sets, get guys into their spots and get the ball to where it needs to go. Yeah. So there's a direct correlation there between the lack of turnovers and Trey taking on more of a prominent role.
And just like McDermott said to us at that conference session, you know, the team is more organized now. Yeah. You know, again, I don't think that was a shot at Jeremy, but Jeremy was sometimes a little bit in disarray. You know, you saw him making just weird, baffling turnovers and passes. I mean, clearly Wemby would be open and just not see him. You know, I don't think it was intentional. Just he's not a point guard, and that's not his default mechanism to be looking for the open person, the guy with a better shot. That's Trey Jones. So you have the insertion of Trey Jones back in the starting lineup, the team collectively, and to a big degree, Trey Jones minimizing turnovers. And for me, I also like the fact that they have a little bit more heart now, just a little more heart, not just getting popped in the mouth of that opening period and then just lying there for the rest of the game. You know, they got Boston tonight, which is a tough out for them. We'll see how they pan out. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, the Spurs are making signs of improvement, Spurs fans. Hopefully they'll continue doing that. Coming up next. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
I was to say one more thing, building on the great point you made about the heart, right? Yeah. The Chicago game. They're down by 18 in the third quarter. They're down 18 without Wemby. And we've seen this movie before, right? The Spurs were down big in the third quarter. And in the third quarter, add to it. If someone would have told you, hey, Jeff, what's going to – in that moment, they're down 18, no Wemby, third quarter. If someone had told you in that moment, Jeff, what's more likely to happen? They're going to end up losing this game by 30, or they're going to come back and eventually take an 8-point lead.
I would have said top selection A, the first one.
Right, and you would have probably taken that choice every day of the week and twice on Sundays. And what did they do? They completely turned it around. And so to your point about how there's a different something around this team right now. Like you said, let's pump the brakes and not call it a turnaround. After all, they still are a team that's only won 7 games out of the first, 39. But, you know, considering they won 5 throughout all of 2023 to start this season and then 2 in a week and a half or in the span of like 3 days this week, it's a good start.
You know, I'm so reaching for anything that's positive about this team. And hey, they're on a winning streak of a different way. They've won the third period over the last 6-7 games straight. Yeah. So go Spurs, go! You just gotta winning all 3 other periods, Spurs, and then you'll be good. All right. When we get back, Hector and I are gonna dive into a mailbag. We're gonna look at what you guys are talking about on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Shocker, a lot about Trey Jones and DeJounte Murray. So that point guard vibe and mentality thoughts about this team and that position resonating with the Spurs fans. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs. This episode is sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get on your way to being the best version of yourself. Look, you know, something you got those resolutions, right? Your New Year's resolution, and you want to look for ways to improve. Well, what if you're already doing the things that you need to improve? You just got to keep on doing them. That's an example of how BetterHelp can help you stay on track, becoming the best version of yourself. So what if you want to organize a certain space in your apartment or your home, or you want to tackle a new task? You know, BetterHelp can help in that department as well. So that therapy, well, it helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. So if you benefit from therapy before or you like to try it, you want to give BetterHelp a try right now. Look, you can develop positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, what empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it's not just for those who experience major trauma, it's for everybody. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a quick, brief questionnaire. You can match with a local and a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional cost. Celebrate the progress you have made. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA right now. Get yourself 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Hey, the NFL season is still going. It's playoffs. What better way to get on the action with FanDuel? Yep, there's still time to get on that right now. You just want to go download that app and make sure you have America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get themselves $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So that's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy, it's convenient, user-friendly, and you can have fun with it. There's different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explorer tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, find pretty much all the popular parlays right there in that Parlay Hub. So many other ways to make your bets. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn right now to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back once again with Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. You see it on your screen right now. Compliment him just how good he looks with his fresh haircut now.
Yeah.
Let him know.
All those things are welcome because it's a change from like all the scraggly stuff that was on there.
He's a Spurs writer for Clutch Points. So again, more reason for you to go check out his X right now, Hector Ledesma TV. All right. We like to have some fun with the fans, Hector, from time to time. You happen to come on one of these episodes where we dive into the Locked On Spurs YouTube fan comment mailbag. So we're going to pick about 2 to 3 comments and get your reaction, my reaction, what the fans are saying about the silver and black. And let's start off. We'll just keep with the Trey Jones vibe, all right? Okay. So this is from A Spleen 1102. He says Trey Jones is not a good shooter. 26.7% from the three-point line this season. So his defender can overhelp on other players. Having a bad shooter at a starting PG is not a good idea to win games. Yes, he can pass nicely. I love his personality, but he simply cannot shoot. That's been the biggest knock on Trey Jones. By the way, thank you, Ace Spleen, for that comment. But man, with all the weapons the Spurs have on the roster, Hector, I mean, does that kind of even out? I mean, what do you take on his bad shooting?
Well, that's the reason why from the get-go it wasn't like Trey is our starting point guard. That's why he's not. That's why he started 65 of the 68 games he played last year, but I mean it was last year's team when Devin was out and Keldon was in and out and they weren't good at all. And so that's how he got a chance to start 65, 68 games. There's a reason Trey Jones went in the second round. There's a reason why you don't pencil him in like you did Devin, Keldon, look for a spot for Jeremy because of that shooting deficiency. So Ace leans right in that regard. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and Cowboy fans, you can appreciate this, and I don't mean to open in a whole nother Cowboy.
Be careful there, Hector.
we're gonna see this with Dak. We already saw it with Dak, and we saw it with Romo. The Cowboys knew in their heart of hearts that Romo wasn't the guy truly to lead them to a Super Bowl. Now, if they built a super talented and able team around him, he could be good enough to lead that kind of a team. Same with Dak. Dak has proven the same thing. The question is not, should we dump him? The question is, if we dump him, then what?
Yeah.
Do you really want Devin being the guy who is looking to facilitate and pass first and not be one of the big scoring options? Again, I get that Devin has struggled the last couple of games, but this team is better when he's getting 20 points per game.
Yeah.
Wemby's alluded to himself as kind of a point center because he makes everything go, and he does. But do you really want Wemby looking for other teammates like more often than not?
Yeah.
No, Wemby needs needs to be the guy who's the ball is leaving his hands more often than not when it's going toward the hoop.
Right.
Who else do you play? They tried that one game with Jetty, and they found that in that short little very tiny sample, he wasn't what he could be when he's off the ball roaming around and he's all over the court picking his spots for threes. Who else do you put at point? And so you live with the reality of Trey. Like, yes, he's not the best shooter. And oh, by the way, he hit all 4 3-pointers he took in the Chicago game in the first half, finished 4 of 6. He only took 2 in the second half, didn't hit either one. But he can shoot every once in a while. He can surprise you and come up with that kind of performance. So, yeah, for his deficiencies, the actual question is, who else do you play there? Because the Spurs have already tried Devin. I'm sorry, they've already tried Jeremy. They tried Jetty for the one game. They tried Malachi. Yeah. And in the same regard as Malachi, as the other guys I mentioned, kind of like Jeremy, Malachi is best when he's coming off screens, when he's in his corner, when he's in a spot, and he can create off of that. That's not the same as getting a team into their offense and facilitating when you're off the ball, coming onto the ball as well. And so who else, if not Trey, I think is, as for the roster is currently constructed, is the question. Now that leads to a different conversation, right? Do you go get somebody or who do you add? But right now on this roster, that's why I think Trey Jones is the best option.
And here's the thing too. With so many weapons on that court, from obviously with the big one, Wemby, to Keldon, to Devin, I would like to see Trey just be that facilitator, keeping the engine going. Now, you're looking at what he's doing so far through 35 games that he's played, 7.4 shot attempts a game. So he's not taking that many shots,
right?
Because I would rather him give up those extra shots that he would want, give them to Wemby, give them to Keldon, give it to Malachi, Devin, all that. And he's not shooting. Think about it. Consider this, 7.4 attempts. He's making about 4 per game. He's shooting about 49%. It's not not horrific, but it's like right there in the middle. Now his 3-point shot has been a concern. He's attempted 75 this season. He's made 20. So I prefer to go to like 27% there. But nevertheless, you got to also understand too that they got themselves Wemby there, and most touches should be given up to him, and that means for Jones to sacrifice any touches he gets to create offense on his own and shot, then I'd rather it go to Wemby. But nevertheless, good comment there. A spleen. We'll stick with the whole point guard vibe here. So this next comment, Hector, is from. I'm trying my best here. Some of these wild names here on the Locked On Spurs page. I think they're saying, for those who don't speak Spanish, sucio is a word for dirty. So it's them sucio junkies. I think that's what they're saying here. Okay. Hey, I can't. Look, it's not a bad word. It's literally what it means. Yeah. So everybody, I'm not cussing. Them sucio junkies says. Please don't trade for DeJounte Murray. That's insanity. I would trade for Tyus Jones and send his brother Trey Jones packing. So there is the DeJounte Murray thing popping up among Spurs fans right now. At least according to rumors / reports, the Spurs are having DJ in their radar. I wouldn't call it insanity, Hector. I wouldn't be mad if the Spurs were to trade back for DeJounte. Where do you sit with that?
So let me start with the most simplistic way I look at these types of things. Get away from specifics and just talk generally. If you put DeJounte Murray on this Spurs roster right now, is he already the second best player on the team?
Oh yeah,
right.
I think so.
Right, he is. Right now he's better than Devin. He's better than Keldon. And he's definitely better than anybody else on the roster. So if you have a chance to add a guy who would immediately be the second best player on your team, why would you not at least entertain the idea? Right? Like, forget styles, like your starting point is, would he already be one of the most talented guys on our team? Because that's more important than anything else, especially when you're where the Spurs are. You need talent. As Bill Parcells used to say, I'm in the talent acquisition business.
Yeah.
Yes, scheme matters. Yes, continuity matters a lot. But you ain't doing anything if you don't have the horses.
Yeah.
And so, given the fact that DeJounte would already be the second best player on their team, you at least entertain it. The question then becomes twofold, really. What would you have to give up for him? And number two, would he fit well? Would he complement? Would he play well with your best player? I'll say this. As much fun as we had watching Wemby in that fourth quarter, that second half against the Hawks, guess what? A point guard, someone who with that kind of mentality and ability is, if you put that kind of a guy next to Wemby, you're going to see a lot more of that Wemby than just once every so often. Like a good point guard who can control an offense and knows where to get guys in the spots is going to do that with Wemby more often than not. And it's going to become like a show every single night. And more importantly, it's going to translate to wins in the Spurs. So would DJ be that guy? I don't know. He's part of his gifts and his skill set is he can score as well, right? But in terms of getting a team into their offense and playing a two-man game, something I think he can excel at, and he did well here when he was here. And so that's my take on DeJounte. I don't know if I certainly wouldn't agree that it's insanity because again,
it's not insanity.
Because again, starting point, he would already be the second best player on their team. So let's have that conversation. It's not like he's joining the big three Spurs. And you're like, where would he fit? Like, he's not better than Tony. He's not better than Manu.
Well, that's what he ran into in his sophomore season because that's exactly why he didn't get out of burn.
Well, that and he wasn't ready yet, right?
He wasn't ready yet.
He wasn't ready. Like, but this version of DeJounte, you throw him into the mix with the big three, and it's like, where do you? Yes, it's a talent, but where do you put him? Where does he fit in? Like to me, that would be a better question. Here, it's an automatic. Like when you're 7-32, like no trade, nothing outside of outside of anything involving Wemby, nothing should be off the table.
No,
nothing whatsoever. There's a reason you're 7-32.
Yeah, for me, Hector, when the rumor report came out about the Spurs engaging, looking at DJ, my thought was, I'm glad they're looking at point guards. If it just happened to be DeJounte, perfect. Okay, fine. But at least they recognize what's the issue is with this roster,
right?
Is point guard depth. So it could have been Van Vliet or Lowry. I don't care. You're focusing on the problem here, Spurs. Yeah, way to go.
Well, I think along those lines, Jeff. I think along with that, one of the reasons why they looked at DeJounte is because the Hawks made it known that DeJounte was available, that they were looking to move him, and so I think that's the genesis. If the Hawks, whether the Hawks came out and said it directly, or whether they put a call into the Spurs, or whether the Spurs heard through the grapevine, the fact that the Hawks were willing to move DeJounte, I don't think it's that the Spurs said, you know what, who we should add DeJounte. Make that call now. I think it was kind of a combination of the Hawks making it known that they were maybe looking to part ways, or that they are looking to part ways with him, and then that kind of got the ball rolling.
Yeah, but that was in our last guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP. He brought that up. He's like, I remember the time where Spurs didn't need a shooting, scoring, big point guard. It was Avery Johnson, and he was just a floor general. Right. And that goes back to the whole point guard topic. But it's circling back to DeJounte. Yeah, I'm not going to be mad. If I wake up tomorrow or we're done with this show and we find out breaking news, Spurs made a trade for DeJounte, I wouldn't be mad. Okay, cool. Get yourself an all-star, a veteran, a guy who's having career season this year in Atlanta, and I'll be down.
But again, it comes down to what the asking price is, right?
Yeah,
that's the price. That's the thing. That to me, that's more important than fit. I know we talked for a little bit about how he fits and whether he complements Wemby. Like that's the number one thing is the asking price. A first rounder for DeJounte. Yeah, probably right.
Sure. Okay, sure.
You can make the argument that as long as it's protected, as long as the first pick that first round is protected, because you can make the argument that DeJounte is better now, and he's young enough to where he's probably going to be better than whoever you would choose in even the first round of the draft. He's that good. He's an all-star. He literally was an all-star a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just underneath that. He's a fringe all-star level player in general. So he's that good. Once you get into multiple first-round picks is when you start going, what's the line? And to be honest, I haven't really thought it all the way through. Like, two first rounders for DeJounte seems a little rich. But if I were to sit down and look at what's coming up in the upcoming drafts, like, complete, not just the top guys, but like a thorough listing of, all right, guards who play like him, point guards, for lack of a better term, things along those lines. I'd have to look at that before I comfortably came to, I would make that move, or no way I wouldn't trade 2 first rounders for him. But that's really, for me, it kind of becomes dicey, of what you give up for him.
Absolutely, yeah. If the Hawks want, give the Spurs sticker shock at the asking price, and I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, love you, DeJounte, but not that much.
If they want to do the thing from the movie Draft Day, where they basically get all their picks back, sorry. We're not giving you all 4 picks back for DeJounte.
Yeah, that ain't happening, Atlanta. That ain't happening. Yeah. So as you can tell, Spurs fans are definitely having a point guard mentality themselves too, because that's all I'm talking about right now. Trey Jones, DeJounte, the future of the position. But once again, we thank Hector for hopping on Locked On Spurs. Chat all things silver and black. Follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. What is going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, the Spurs are out of town till next Wednesday. Oh, by the way, the homecoming, the first game home is against Chet. How much fun is that going to be?
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's
January
right.
24th game, that 24th game is going to be Chet's, it's going to be Chet's first game here. So that's I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for him. But yeah, just continue to. I'm actually after this, I'm gonna try to pop out another article here to post on Clutch Points. So. Clutchpoints.com, and thank you so much for mentioning the Twitter handle. I link the stories pretty much.
Okay, there you go.
I'll post. I don't post I don't, outside of game stuff, like in-game tweeting and the articles, I don't post a whole lot of other stuff. I'm boring like that, But you can find the articles linked on those. Sorry, I still call them tweets.
Yeah,
or whatever.
It's like 2 for 1. They get to follow you and then see the work that you do for Clutch Points. So
I put it on there. Because Clutch Points has grown to the point where you get there and you're like, whoa, like it's got all the tabs: NBA, ESPN, commentaries, YouTube, blah blah blah. It's this vast thing where it's just give it to me. Just what's the link? Just quick. And luckily, there's no paywalls or anything, so just boom.
Perfect.
What I'll always do is I'll go directly to the link and then paste that URL onto the. Which always comes with like a neat little picture that the Clutch Points editors kind of put together. He is
Hector Ledesma again. Follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. We thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, from iTunes to the Locked On Spurs YouTube page, the Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. And we'll be back tomorrow with a surprise guest, everybody. We'll see who that is, so keep an eye on that. Let me say right now, make sure you watch tomorrow's Locked On Spurs. But before I let Hector go, also Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Go subscribe right now. National, local, regional hosts, all there 24/7 on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today. Now, for Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.